I once had a meeting with Martin Scorsese.
Here we go.
And he started talking about Japanese cinema from the 1930s.
Yep.
And I lied and pretended I'd seen some of the films, and then I had to try and upkeep this conversation without having, but I was so embarrassed that I hadn't, and the words just sort of vomited out of my mouth before I'd had a time to realize that I was lying, and now I'm going puce, and that was pretty embarrassing, yeah. He doesn't know that. Well, yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Sorry,
just to say I didn't get the part. So.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You're among friends. We've all done it. You're Tony nominated. You're an Oscar winner. You're okay.
Yeah.
Have we all done it, though?
Prepare your ears, humans. Happy, Sad, Confused begins now.
Today on Happy, Sad, Confused, we're live at the 92nd Street Y with the stars of Cabaret, Eddie Redmayne and Gayle Rankin, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I don't know if there's any such thing as a perfect musical, but Cabaret might be right there. It is a classic. It has been a classic since debuting nearly 60 years ago on Broadway. And I've been privileged enough to see this production. I'm sure some of you have. If you haven't, hopefully, yes, it's amazing. It both honors what you've seen before, but is so its own thing, and it is fascinating, and it is really anchored by two stellar performances. We have two amazing actors here tonight. I should say the production is nominated for 9 Tony Awards. Well-deserved, yes. Gayle Rankin will break your heart as Sally Bowles, and Eddie Redmayne, this is, I mean, in a career of amazing performances, this might be the role of his life. You'll understand why when we speak in a moment. I'd love to hear a warm welcome for these two amazing performers, guys. Please give it up for Eddie Redmayne and Gayle Rankin, everybody. Congratulations, guys. Amazing work. Thank you so much for spending your night off with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So lovely.
I mentioned before, again, congratulations are in order. Gayle, your first Tony nomination. I mean, as presumably a theater kid, a theater woman, talk to me a little bit about what it's like to get that news.
Always a theater kid, never a theater woman. I mean, I'm still absorbing it. Talk about happy, sad, confused. I mean, just, it's something you dream about. I think it's going to take me a long time to process, but yeah, what an honor to get nominated inside of this production. I mean, and next to now a dear friend, which is just really special.
This is old hat for Eddie. I mean, 2010. His Broadway debut, you won a Tony way back when.
Got it. The weird thing is it feels like yesterday, but someone showed a photo the other day and I looked like a child.
What are your recollections of getting that? Did that change your life way back when, working with Alfred Molina and getting that accolade?
Genuinely, it did actually change my life. I was... Not only was the experience extraordinary, this was a play called Red about Mark Rothko, written by John Logan, and it was Alfred Molina and I, and it started at the Donmar Warehouse, a little theatre in London, and then it came to Broadway, and to begin with, sort of no one bought tickets, and gradually it sort of built a word of mouth, and I studied history of art at university, and it was everything that I dreamt of, really, a play about art and about making art. But I remember I was up for a film at the time, a film called My Week with Marilyn, and the producers weren't sure. I hadn't done much, and they didn't know whether I was like financially viable. And genuinely, it was I think one of the producers was at the Tony Awards, and when I was lucky enough to win, my agent sidled up to that producer and look, he's doing all right, isn't he? So,
good enough for you now? Huh?
So I couldn't. So and that kick-started some things for me, so I was very grateful.
Usually I would do something like this later on, but let's do some kind of icebreakers. I want to hear from you guys who has the more bizarre pre-show ritual. Backstage, if I had my eyes and ears on you, what do you guys look like backstage?
You know, it's interesting because there's such a kind of amazingly hedonistic, immersive, sexy, grimy experience being at the Kit Kat Club in the prologue. If anyone has come to see this show, it starts quite early and you can kind of absorb like the amazing energy of Berlin in the 1920s and how starkly different it is backstage. Like we're just like trying to put on some eyelashes, like very.
Keep it down out there. We're trying to concentrate back here.
There's focus. I mean, I have an altar. I have an altar in my dressing room, which is kind of, you know, witchy.
Yeah. That come from House of the Dragon? You just played a witch.
I certainly did. A witch who, yeah, I can't tell you.
Spoilers.
A witch
She was about to spoil. That was like Josh's live stream happening right there.
I know. 3 more weeks, 4 more weeks. Yeah, no, I am a little bit witchy though, and I kind of I'm not allowed to say this either. I like illegally burn things in my dressing room. But I have this whole ritual of like, I put a candle on, I open the window, my tiny little window that's broken, and then as soon as I like do my little ritual, I blow it out and like throw it outside and put it on the air conditioner and let the smoke go out that way.
Yeah, you're kind of like 50% rebel. You don't want to go all the way and burn down the theater. You just want to be enough to...
Yeah, just to taste it.
A quasi-rebel.
Quasi-rebel.
Yeah, that's my Sally Bowles.
Are you superstitious, Eddie? Are there any routines that...
I'm horrendously superstitious, and this thing develops sort of small things that you happen to do in the first preview. You know, by the end of a run has turned in. You know, I sort of have to come 4 hours before the show to get through the horrors of my ritual.
He lives there now.
Our dressing rooms are next to each other, and they're divided by basically balsa wood. And Gayle has an extraordinary voice. I have to warm my voice up for hours, so she has to put up with me doing these sort of endless vocal warm-ups, which is called vocalizing.
Sure.
And occasionally things come through the tannoy, through the speaker system going, no vocalizing, and they're very much sort of passive-aggressively aimed at my direction.
We love it.
I'm trying to think what are those things?
Not burning anything, you're not...
We have a moment always before the show when Gayle comes and she knocks on my door and she goes, are you in the mood? And I go, I'm in the mood. Even if we're not in the mood.
No, but we must be in the mood.
We have to be in the mood.
There's an audience waiting. This show's gotten remarkable reviews. If you'll indulge me, I'm going to read you a review. And this is going to focus a little, this will put you on the spot, Eddie, but just indulge me for a second. There were many stars of this excellent performance, but despite the outstanding quality on display, one actor still stood out head and shoulders above the rest. Don't worry, Gayle, this is not about you. This was, of course, Eddie Redmayne, whose performance in every respect was sensational. He was the master of ceremonies of the Kit Kat bar, and this title could not have been more apt. Eddie, do you know what review that is from?
My agent?
That is from a 1999 issue of the Eden College Chronicle.
Oh, God.
Your review.
Oh, my heart.
That you research hard, Josh. So that, for people who don't know what the Eton College Chronicle is, that was the school newspaper of the school I went to, my high school, and I did a production when I was about 15 years old. I wish that you had said that was the New York Times.
I think it was.
Exactly, we'll just shift that. But that is really lovely to hear. How the fuck did you find that?
I don't know. I'm still a subscriber to the Eton College Chronicle. Really quality paper.
I want that on a t-shirt. I think we need to start selling that as merch. I need that.
Totally.
Love that.
Can we have a photo, I think, way back when,
more
of
true.
Eddie.
No.
Oh my God.
No.
I mean,
Oh my God.
it's still quite a hand-centric performance.
Well it should be.
Yeah.
You mentioned, so even prior to that performance, so the first time you performed it was you were 14 or 15, you said?
No, that's that.
That's that one.
That's the, yeah. And then I did it at the Edinburgh Festival again when I was 18.
So it's not necessarily a show I think of for a 14 or 15-year-old performer.
Yeah.
What was the sexual content? What was the edginess level?
I mean, I would say it was horrendously inappropriate when I look back on it. But yeah, we were sort of we were doing it and we were leaning into it. But
And obsessed ever since then with this character in this show?
yeah, I think the obsession lay in the fact that until I was cast in it, I didn't know the show. And then when I started listening to Joel's version and Alan's version, and then when I watched the film and started finding on YouTube. It was before YouTube was invented, so that's a total lie. But something about the show itself and the music gave me everything that I dreamt of in the theatre. I found it funny. I found it seductive. I found it thrilling. I found it moving, and I found it provocative, and it made me think. And also that this character doesn't really exist on the page. There's a moment in the piece where he sings this song, Tomorrow Belongs to Me, and in the script it's written as the emcee stands in a void. And it's like, what's a void? Like, what is that? And that the abstraction of him, the enigma of him, was compelling even at the age of 15, and has clearly remained that way. So I'm now 42, still going back night after night to try and unpack him.
Gayle, you have a history, obviously, also with this show. We have another photo. I think this is Gayle about a decade ago. Yes.
There we go. I love when it's blown up because you can see that, well, it looks like a shadow, but actually we weren't shaving our armpits. It's true, and I stand by that. I thought it was good.
So when you were in that production, at the Great Alan Cumming was a part of that production, of course. Is Sally one of those roles that every actor thinks about? Was that on your mind at all, that one day maybe I'd get a crack at my Sally Bowles, or no?
I didn't think I would get the chance. You know, I think it's one of those secret roles. You know, I think it's not unlike, I don't know, kind of like Hamlet. You know, where you're like, maybe. Like, truly maybe, because the stars, not to be cheesy, but like, the stars kind of do have to align in some way. Like, it's kind of you get really lucky, and I got really, really lucky, and it's kind of, it feels a bit too good to be true, but
You've met the moment. Having seen the show, it's a remarkable performance. Eddie, this production, which started back in London, kind of does start with you. I mean, your idea was to kind of mount a new cabaret, and I'm curious, like, what was on your mind? Like, did you have, because it's a different production, it's a different cabaret than folks have seen, which is remarkable. Like, how much of that was baked into the initial idea, and how much of that evolved in the gathering the team around you to
So the Edinburgh Festival production I did was, I don't know if you guys know the Edinburgh Festival, but it's an amazing theatre comedy festival that happens every year in Edinburgh in the summer. In found spaces, everywhere in Edinburgh turns into a performance space, from restaurants to bars to just random caverns underneath roads. And these two young guys had set up a venue there called the Underbelly, and we did our production of Cabaret in the Underbelly, and that was just, they were students at the time, kind of making a buck. And that then became their business, and the Underbelly became these great site-specific comedy festivals and theatre pieces in London. And those guys came to me about 8 years ago and said, would you ever consider doing cabaret again? And I was like, I would love to, but let's, and because they came from this site-specific world, they were like, let's think of it in a new way. There was this space in London, an old music hall, underground, that had been sort of converted into flats, but the space itself was this gigantic concrete, what looked like a car park set in the round. So the first idea was, what if we turn, which you enter via a fire exit and go down these, what if we turn that into like Berghain, like one of the clubs in Berlin now, and the audience come there and then it turns into a club afterwards? Could that be interesting? So we were looking for found spaces in London, and then the pandemic happened. And during that time, so many theatres in London were barren, and so when it came back, it felt irresponsible not to play this in a theatre, but that idea of making it an evening that fulfilled all your senses remained. And that's kind of where the idea of this this world in which you swim into, you come off the street, and you get discombobulated through tunnels and past dancers and musicians, and Tom Scott, our extraordinary designer, has concocted this space that forces you to get lost and to leave your memory of the day outside.
Well, it is a show in any production that always, if it's done right, the audience does feel some complicity, right? And what you guys have achieved in kind of creating this true transportation for this audience just serves that all the better. I'm curious how that affects your performance, though. Like, Gayle, because the audience, it's a different audience. It's an audience that kind of leans in, I would imagine, into the environment a little bit more than usual.
Yeah, there's definitely an invitation. That there's continual checks, for consent at each point, and it's. I was just talking about this today. We were talking about Cabaret, the title song of the musical, and how I feel when I'm singing it. And I think there's something about that moment for Sally where she's finally able to be her kind of fully formed, unadorned self, especially as a performer, and there's something really intimate about that. And the audience, and finally, and Sally really gets to have a relationship with the audience, so I feel very close. As large as the theatre is, it's 1,200 seats, something around that. And it's a sea of people, there's a lot of people, but it feels like I could talk to each and every single person. And so, and the production does that, and the design does that, and the lights do that, and even our costumes, there's something that begins as kind of an explosive party and only kind of narrows into this, everything starts to distill and starts to creep closer and closer and closer, for better and for worse. And that feels really complicated.
Yeah.
As a performer, I think I enjoy it, and I'm terrified.
This guy's terrifying in the show, and that's a compliment. This is a more terrifying MC than I've ever seen, and some of the costumes will haunt my dreams forever. I mean, you kind of reference this. I mean, might sound insane. In some ways, when I was watching it, and I've been privileged enough to see it a couple times, both in England and here, it's like as much Pennywise the clown as it is the MC. He is, I know you've referred to him as something of a shapeshifter. I would think there are a lot of challenges here, but you refer to it as, it's less of a character than a force of nature in a way. And I would think as an actor, you would want more, you want backstory, you want things to kind of cling on to. So that's not this, though. Can you talk to me a little bit about the challenge of finding a character that's not an actual character in a way?
Well, so the genesis of the character was in Christopher Isherwood's book, He Doesn't Exist.
Right.
It's Sally's story. And although she's not, so the character was created by Joel Grey and Hal Prince with Kander Eben Masteroff, and to connect as the connective tissue in the story. And that kind of abstraction, I suppose, has always been the thrilling quality of it to me. And what I as I began to dig into him, it's like the way where the songs are placed, there's a Greek chorus quality to him. He is in some ways he's the soul of Berlin as the fascism is rising, and it's sort of so. One of the things that interested me was this idea of firstly looking at MCs from where they arrived in 19th century France, in which these people, you would be invited to, you would pay to go to cabarets to kind of be abused in some ways. Yeah. There was often, it was holding this mirror up and assaulting audiences in a way that people kind of paid for and enjoyed, and were compelled by and kind of repelled by. Right. So that was interesting to me, but also this idea that with Rebecca Frecknell and Tom Scott, our director and our designer, was talking about what they wanted to do was create the idea of the celebration of the individual. So each of the Kit Kat performers has their own character, their own design. They've been cast for their brilliance and their personality. And as the fascism creeps in, it's the removal of those things. It's the removal of progress, the homogenization of their characters and their costume. And what was interesting for me was this idea of the MC going from being the marionette or the puppeteer almost. He conjures everyone, he kind of brings them into the scene. He introduces Cliff to Sally, and then by the end he's actually turned into a conductor. And whilst everyone else is struggling, he's going to be fine. So I found that idea of MC as perpetrator rather than as victim interesting.
Have you ever been in this situation where you're at a lovely family gathering and suddenly you're in a conversation with maybe an aunt, an uncle, a sister-in-law, and you find yourself bending the truth a little bit? Like maybe your relationship's going perfectly, maybe you're about to get the promotion you're not actually going to get. That's fine in that situation, I suppose, but that can't be the situation when you're talking to your doctor. You have to be absolutely truthful. Your health is too important, guys. Enter ZocDoc. It's the place where you can find and book doctors who will make you feel comfortable and actually listen to you. And we're not talking about just a few. We're talking about tens of thousands of patient-reviewed, verified doctors. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare highly rated in-network doctors near you and instantly book appointments with them online. Once you find the doctor you want, you can book them that very second. No more waiting awkwardly on hold with a receptionist. And did I mention that all these doctors have verified reviews from actual, real patients? Plus, you can filter specifically for ones who take your insurance, are located near you, and treat basically any condition that you're searching for. If I need a doctor, I use ZocDoc. Go to ZocDoc.com/happysad. Download the ZocDoc app for free, then find and book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/happysad. ZocDoc.com/happysad. Sadly, this is a show that feels very relevant to these times. I mean, there is, we just have to read the newspaper, if people read a newspaper anymore, to know, fascism is out there, anti-Semitism is on the rise. I mean, I would imagine that can't help but inform what your work on the stage. Is that ever present in both of your minds?
I would say yes, I think, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so deeply wild how relevant and deeply and so bittersweet. I mean, John Kander himself will speak to it, how bittersweet it is that cabaret is so necessary still. And it's complicated to say, I hope we never need it again. Because I love this piece of art more than most things.
But there's something also about the piece that what I find so intriguing about it is it's so specific to the period.
Yeah.
And it was written 20 years, I think 25 years after, or 20 years after the end of the war. And then in the 60s, so it's razor sharp in the specificity of that moment. And yet it was so relevant then. It was so relevant when Sam first did it in the 90s. Sam Mendes directed it in the 90s. There was a war going on in Eastern Europe. And it was, with the Ukraine was invaded while we were doing it in London. And now what's going on in the world. There's this sort of extraordinary thing with it as a piece that it's a testament to the writing that it can be read as so specific, or you can see it as these ripples across generations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also that I don't think I'm looking at this with rose-colored glasses, but also that there's something at the core of it, whilst it's so much about the horror of everything that's going on, there's a sense of, not only is it kind of a warning in some ways, or certainly there are big questions in it for the audience, but that there is hope. there is a sense of hope somewhere at the center that is kind of left as an ellipses in some ways. And I think inside of our production, and there's some move, like as desperately sad and as much as there's an end, there's an ellipses of potential.
Well, again, and the audience does feel that. I feel like that in the end, it's going to be up to all of us to make the right choices to avoid the easy route, which is to fall prey to these forces that are just outside our window.
Well, sorry.
No, but there's this idea as well, I think your point, Gayle, of it being a warning is really interesting, but it's and true, but it's also a sort of compassionate warning. You know, Fräulein Schneider's song, What Would You Do?
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing to be in a place of privilege and go, this is where one's morality is, but if you can't pay for the next day, or it's your life depends on it, that's a different question. And I find something that I've discovered here that I had never found in London is that song, What Would You Do, is promptly followed by the MC coming and singing, I Don't Care Much. And that idea of the big question of what would you do in this situation, followed by a nihilistic kind of apathy, feels, and that you know, Kander and Eben Master for doing something quite extraordinary.
Well, and then to end with Cabaret, which is like Sally's rebuttal in some ways.
Right.
It's just all questions. It's all options, and also that it's about dialogue, and it's about community, really, and it's about, are we turning against each other or are we coming together?
Yeah.
And I do believe that's theater, that's art, those are our options. You know?
The whole notion of the Kit Kat Club Cabaret being an escape for an audience to leave your troubles behind and forget about everything. I'm curious, like, to personalize it for you guys. Has theater and the work always been a refuge for you? No matter what's happening in your personal life, good or bad, the work is there, and you can kind of escape into it?
Hopefully the work is there.
Another reason, desperate for work. Give me the work so I can forget about my life.
I think for me, theatre started as an actual escape. My first ever job professionally when I was a kid was in a production of Oliver the Musical.
Same.
Was it really?
Yes.
Shut up, we haven't had that. What part did you
We've never talked about this. Just one of the boys.
One of the boys? Yeah. Which number, do you remember?
Food Glory is Food.
No, but which number Workhouse Boy?
Oh, I don't know.
Were you in the gang?
No.
Oh, me neither. And it's so depressing because Oliver, they're like, which character in the gang were you? I was like, I've never been to the gang.
Yeah.
I was just a workhouse boy walking around with an empty bowl.
Same.
But this production was in London, and I was about 11 years old, and I got cast in it, and it meant that I used to leave my maths class at school, and I would be like, I'm off to the theatre. and I would get on the tube in London and go and do this, and Sam Mendes directed this production. Sam was a very young, up-and-coming sort of director at the time. And I was in about the 20th child cast. There were thousands of children. But for many, many years, it remained on my CV, like Oliver, Workhouse Boy number 24, directed by Sam Mendes, Oscar-winning. And then I remember once going for a meeting to meet Sam Mendes and having to score that out really quickly.
So sorry.
So sorry. We never met.
Do you have a similar traumatic show on
Oliver?
the CV? Yeah, Oliver story.
Oh, on the CV. No, I do. Oh God, I do. When I did a production of Our Town at Williamstown Theatre Festival not that long ago, which is terrifying. Brie Larson was Emily. Amazing. And Nicky Martin directed it. I was the first dead woman. Kept that on for a long time. I thought that was good.
But interestingly, you have a number. because that's like, that gives
First
it definition.
dead woman?
Right,
Yeah.
not just dead woman.
Exactly. Dead woman, you might not put a...
Dead woman. It's so bad. You know, you sit in that graveyard and you do what you have to do.
Yeah.
You know?
That is a real transition for an actor, isn't it? To go from like nameless person, number whatever, to, oh, I have a name, I have a past, I have a life.
Yeah, it really is.
Sally Bowles.
Yeah.
What have you learned? Look, there's a long lineage of amazing MCs and Sallys. So do you, to say the least, do you have to flush that out of your brain, or is it useful to talk to anybody about?
Gonna flush that MC right out of my brain.
We only answer questions in musical theatre songs now. I know him so well. We could go on all night. I remember so vividly because I thought I was going to have a panic attack. I was backstage, and for some reason, I just started thinking about Liza. Like, just. I was about to walk on stage before maybe this time, and I was like, Liza. And I was like, oh my God. And I had to get to a point where I was like, I honor you, I'm standing on your shoulders, I have to go on stage now. And I think there's a lot of that. It's like, how can you not be in dialogue with, and we're standing on the shoulders of just titans, and all of our work, I hope, I can't believe I'm saying this, is like in conversation with each other, you know, and I feel so moved and bolstered and unworthy, and yeah.
There's something I think with, I know I did a production of Richard II in London about 10 years ago at this theatre, and it was a small theatre, and there was always the Richard II seat, and it would be where Ian McKellen, Derek Jacobi, Ben Whishaw, like all these icons of theatre who played Richard II would always be sitting in the... And it's an interesting thing because those parts that have been made and formed by people indelibly, you either choose to run and go with fear and go, therefore I'm never going to touch them, or you acknowledge that you're never going to fulfill everyone's expectations, but that you give it a shot. And certainly, we were talking about earlier with Cabaret, it is one that the MC and Sally Bowles are parts that people lust after, in the same way that directors will to direct it, but it only happens once every 10 years that you get that opportunity, and we were just so lucky that has come around and we get to inhabit it. But we've had, Joel came to see the show, which was incredibly moving and has been so generous. There was this, it was his 92nd birthday, and he came with John Kander and half of the iconic New York theatre community, it transpires. Lin-Manuel Miranda, they're all there. And which was, I'm very pleased I didn't know, but I knew that Joel was in the theatre. But a bit like you guys, the lights were so bright I couldn't actually see anywhere, except for this moment in the second act when I'm dressed as this clown, this Pierrot, and I sit on the side of the stage for a minute, and I look to this table just to my left, and there he was. And he was sitting next to his daughter, Jennifer, who I also think is extraordinary. And he looked at me, and he put his hand on his heart, and he reached out to me. And it was one of the best moments of my life. It was utterly extraordinary. And that's a testament to who he is as a performer, but also as a person. And similarly, Alan came to see the show.
Alan came to see the show, and thank God he didn't, and he came, he kind of came in like disguise, God bless him, he took a little hat on, and we'd both had a really difficult show, and it's fair to say, it was just like for some reason, just one of those evenings, you know, it was just one of those shows. And what, I mean, my heart just totally exploded, and he was so kind and vulnerable and complimentary, and just we've just received so much support from people who have spent so much of their lives devoted to this. It feels like a very special club, and I've gotten so much support from so many of the women that have played Sally. It's so moving. Cara came to see it. Cara Delevingne, who's playing Sally at the moment in London. Yeah. We've been.
You probably know Jessie Buckley, I would imagine.
Yes, and and look, I Jessie is astonishing, and we had just shot a film together right before she was about to go into rehearsal for Cabaret. And, you know, I'm sitting on her shoulders, I feel her all the time.
And this is going to continue. In 10 or 20 years, when the next iteration comes, you're going to be in that other seat. So what would you say to the next Sally or MC?
Not a lot. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Just love.
Other than give them a real hug and go, it's bloody hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's an interesting thing I find about like aging as an actor, it's when the revival comes back. I remember I did an Edward Albee play called The Goat, and then suddenly when it came back for its revival, I'm like, I'm how old? You sort of age with revival.
That's the
everyone was like, are you going to play for Ellen Schneider in 10 years? I was like, excuse me? Excuse me? I was like, I will direct Cabaret in 10 years.
That's why Alan just keeps doing the same role. That's the secret. Don't let it up. Don't give it up. You have it for life.
I know. My big conversation with Alan was because Alan, he was so extraordinary in the part, and the reputation on Broadway was that his dressing room turned into this like glorious nightclub, Club Cumming. Club Cumming. And I was like, how the fuck did you do it? I'm sort of a monk. I can't drink. I haven't we
don't talk to anyone.
We don't talk to anyone. This is like a massive deal, us coming out. and I was like, and he was like, Eddie, you'll get used to it. So I'm hoping there's going to come a threshold.
I'm waiting for it. I'm like, I think July is going to be good.
Our equivalent of Club Cumming is going and getting a sort of vitamin IV.
Yeah, we've been in the doctor's office, like in the next room, like just be like, knock, knock, knock. How you doing? Getting a vitamin. That's our.
You did have fried chicken. You got fried chicken today.
I did get fried chicken today.
Yeah. So. And she drank sake, so she's pretending to be a monk, but she's not at all.
Why are you shaming?
She's Sally Bowles!
She's so
exactly
committed to the part.
what I was going to say.
Gin for breakfast.
Gin for breakfast.
There are some stories about my mom's life that I truly never get tired of hearing about. From hilarious to heartfelt, tear-jerking to plot-twisting, her retelling of the events of her life always brings me joy. And just in time for Mother's Day, I found the perfect gift that captures all her stories from my family forever. It's called Storyworth. Storyworth helps you preserve precious memories and stories from your mom's life for years to come. Here's how it works. This is so cool. Each week, Storyworth emails your loved one a thought-provoking question that you get to help pick. It can be something profound like what is most meaningful in your life, or it could be something that's like a fun prompt like what was your least favorite subject in school. Then Storyworth makes the writing process a total breeze. All your loved one needs to do is respond to that email with a story. It can be long or short, it doesn't matter. You'll be emailed a copy of your loved one's response as they're submitted over the course of the year. You'll get to enjoy all the retelling of the stories you already know, or better yet, be surprised by stories you've never heard before. After that year of fun, Storyworth compiles your loved one's stories and photos into a beautiful keepsake hardcover book that you'll be able to share and revisit for generations to come. You can even keep a copy of the book for yourself. That's what we're going to do, honestly. I'm going to get a copy of this for myself, for my nieces and nephews, and this is going to be a book that we treasure for the rest of our lives and the next generation's lives. Families love Storyworth. That's why it has more than 25,000 5-star reviews on Trustpilot, with millions of stories preserved since they were founded over 10 years ago. Give all the moms in your life a unique, heartfelt gift you'll all cherish for years. Storyworth. Right now, save $10 on your first purchase when you go to storyworth.com/happysad. That's storyworth.com/happysad to save $10 on your first purchase. one more clip. We're going to go to audience questions in a little bit, but we have a familiar face to a friend of yours who just returned the favor to you. Very recently, the great Tom Hiddleston was on stage with me, and Eddie was kind enough to send in a video message, and of course, Tom has to return the favor. Here's a message from Tom Hiddleston for Eddie Redmayne.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Josh, and chiefly, hello, Eddie. I hope you're having the most wonderful time in New York on Broadway doing Cabaret. I've always said it's your masterpiece. I don't know if you've told Josh and the assembled group about your history with this character, but I know it's very dear to you, and it's kind of like defining. Anyway, you're magnificent. My question to you is, I was really thinking about this, what do you think is the greatest challenge you have ever faced as an actor? So something that you're required to do, you're about to do, you're standing at the base of the mountain, metaphorically, and you're thinking, how on earth am I going to do this? What was it, and how did you get through it? How did you convince yourself that you'd be okay? All right, I'm just curious. I need to know.
I'm just curious.
Have fun, everybody. Lots of love. Bye.
Amazing, amazing.
God, how lovely of him to ask.
That's funny.
I think I asked him a really stupid question for his podcast. Tom asked like a really profound question.
One up Redmayne. No.
God, Tom and I were at school together, and we did school plays together when we were kids. It's a really good question, and the answer to it, I think, was when I did The Theory of Everything, a film about Stephen Hawking, the first... The thing that scared me most about that film was portraying ALS and portraying it authentically. And I'd spent months prepping it, but the way that films work is you can't shoot chronologically. And particularly the first days of shooting Theory of Everything, we shot everything that was set in Cambridge because the students hadn't come back yet for term. So we had to do all of the scenes that was exterior shots in Cambridge in the first 2 days. And I'll never forget that in the morning of the first day of shooting, I had to start playing Stephen healthy and young, and then play him with one stick, and then in 2 different stages beyond that, when the ALS had really got a grip on him. And it was at Cambridge, which was the university I went to, and I just couldn't quite believe I was there, knowing Stephen was up the road and he came to the set. I just felt, I don't actually know how you can do this. And what happened was the night before filming, I don't know how you are with this, Gayle, but every time I do a film, the anxiety gets so intense that night before filming, because you always start at some random scene in the middle of the arc of a character, and you can have done all this prep in a vacuum, and at some point you have to just put what's the expression, strap your colours to the mast or whatever, you have to, and it got to 4 a.m, and I wasn't asleep, and I was like, I'm being picked up at 6, it got to 5 a.m, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna sleep. I had a bath, woke up, walked through the streets of Cambridge, which was so odd because I hadn't been back since I'd left university, to a film set to do this thing. And the day that, in answer to Tom's question, how did I do it? I think the fatigue was so overwhelming that it was like, but all I remember is at the end of the day, I had to do a full-on breakdown scene in a specific, and by that point, I was so tired and I was so exhausted that I think James Marsh, the director, just sort of poked me and I just went, it was so, which was probably very helpful and may have won me an Oscar. So it transpires that if in doubt, don't sleep and use the anxiety.
Easy enough, and then Oscars come your way. Before we come to some audience questions, a couple off-topic things. I'd mentioned you are going to be in House of the Dragon. I'm very excited about this. I know you can't probably say much, but what was
Apparently I'll say whatever.
more sake for Gayle?
More sake.
Sake, no.
What can we expect? It's Alice. Do I have that right?
Yeah, Alice Rivers, which honestly, like, and I've said this to Ryan, our showrunner, I'm like, doesn't that sound amazingly like an anchor? She's like, hello and welcome to the morning show at 2, I'm Alice Rivers. You know?
Right.
No, but I'm a witch.
A good witch or a bad witch?
Is that a thing?
Do you wear a wig?
Thank you, Eddie.
Yes, I do wear a wig. Can you imagine if I was like, it's not a wig, and you go,
It's an
Her
exclusive,
hair
a
is-
Game of Thrones exclusive. Wait, what other questions can we ask? I can get stuff out
Yeah,
of her,
please,
Josh.
Eddie, what do you
yeah,
want?
go ahead.
What questions do you want to know?
I don't want to get her fired.
What will break the internet? Do you have an option for another season?
Look at this. He's a pro.
Wow. You're terrible. You're
Don't
terrible.
answer that question.
I'm not going to answer. He's also my publicist. He's like, no.
Well, yes. You were going to say? Sorry?
I wasn't going to say
Okay.
anything.
We'll leave it be.
Massively unsuccessful.
It's okay. You did your best. Here's a random one for you. I had a conversation with another old buddy of yours, Jamie Dornan, who told me an amazing story about you were hacked. Your email account was hacked.
It was you that got this out
Yes.
of Jamie. Of course it was.
Your email
Yes.
account, correct me if I'm wrong, I want to hear it from your perspective. Your email account was hacked, all your contacts got a message, and the person, and it was basically that you needed money, right?
Yeah.
And the person that thought you legitimately needed money
Yeah.
was Warren Beatty.
No!
True?
True, yeah.
Eddie, what?
So the story is this. Warren, who is extraordinary, really extraordinary, had for a long time been trying to make a movie that he had written, he was directing, and it became this extraordinary thing in Hollywood that his process is so meticulous, and he would find an actor that he would engage with, and then you would go to his home and I went every day for 3 weeks, and his wonderful wife and his children, and you would sit in his home and read the script and talk through the script, and he was incredibly generous. Actually, a testament to Warren's generosity was while I was there, a friend of mine got very sick. I got a call saying it was and Warren instantly was telling me who the best doctors were. Like he was an amazing man. And anyway, the film, I didn't get the part. The years went by, and one day I woke up really hungover in this city to a voicemail from Warren saying, Eddie, I'm here. Are you okay? What do you need?
Oh, God.
Let me know. And I was like, I turned to my wife, I was like, Warren Beatty's just left me a very strange voicemail. And then I had another couple of similar voicemails, and it became clear that an email had gone out from my email address saying that I was in Qatar, and that I was, and that I had been mugged on the side of a street. And I was desperate for money, but I will never forget that. Because not many people, Jamie Dornan certainly didn't come back being like, yeah, buddy, you all right? Just checking in, nothing.
Yeah.
But
is your password just too easy? Is it like Eddie Redmayne 123? Do you need to upgrade your?
Write that down.
I don't know, Josh, and I'm so computer illiterate that it's probably being hacked as we speak. But please don't. If you get an email from me requesting money,
He's fine. He's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Some audience questions.
But also, this is slightly, there's sort of become this thing. Jamie is an old pal, and we're both like dads now, and there's not much interesting going on in our lives. And so we find doing press quite stressful, and because they make, have to tell funny anecdotes, and we're like, oh, I'm just like, God, Dad, like our life is really,
so he's using
amazing, but like it's not great sort of couch fodder. So now we just regurgitate each other's stories, so dig up like random, and he sort of throws me over the cliff.
That's what a good friend does. Kaylin wants to know, your processes for the different physicalities of each of your characters in this. Very distinct physical approaches to these roles. In a nutshell, what was the guiding force?
I mean, we have an extraordinary choreographer. Her name is Julia Chang. I mean, the first time that Eddie and I talked, I mean, our director, Rebecca Frecknell, also comes from a really strong movement background. So it was this kind of amazing tour de force female team who have really different physical languages, and certainly like, I'm not really a dancer, but Julia.
She could do the splits.
I'm flexible. I am very flexible. But yeah, the kind of combination of the way Julia and Frex kind of approach movement really sat well in my body, and we kind of would spend some dedicated time just with music. I mean, a lot just with like music and like free movement, trying to like find what felt good in my body. And so that was my process, certainly for the movement.
It's about drawing it out of us was
Yeah.
the thing. Like I'm really not a dancer, but we had a month or two beforehand with Julia. And what Julia would do is she comes from the club dancing world. She specializes in whacking and
Punking.
Say again?
Punking?
Punking and crumping, and that's her world. And so, but what she did in the prep before we started rehearsals is we would have this space, and she would have a classical ballerina, a break dancer, someone who specialized in voguing, these different, and we would all work on these improvisations together, which was her way of finding what the language was, because she wanted the language to refer to the 1920s, but one of the things that was really important for both Julia and Rebecca, and you mentioned it earlier, Josh, was that it shouldn't be just about then. It should be about the now, and it should reference what.
Yeah, it's referential, right? And
The
of
culture
the
of
90s and also like of production, like periods of time in which this production has been done, which is also kind of just amazingly like respectful and fresh and yeah, I don't know, cool.
Lila wants to know what your process is of getting in and out of character. We talked a little bit about how you guys get into character. Maybe how do you shake it off? Is it easy to? It can't be. Can't turn this off.
Still trying to figure that out. No, I have a little tiny ritual that I do after every show.
What is it? Can you tell us?
You exit the other side of the stage, don't you?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if I was like, I take off all of my clothes? No, there's a back alley exit, and I take a walk.
Oh, wow.
I take a walk, and then I walk back. Just a walk.
Yeah.
I would say for me, it's in the curtain call, Gayle and I get to hug, and it's
Breaking the rules.
It's breaking the rules of our director, but it's important for me because the last interaction we have is so vicious, and I find it really, and the story ends in a dark place, but I find it very cleansing.
Yeah.
Do either of you have a dream role besides the Oliver revival that you need to do?
I honestly kind of don't want to do a one-woman show of Oliver. I'm not kidding. I've talked about it with a lot of people.
I mean, seriously.
One boy for sale. I can do all of the voices. Fagin, like Nancy, like.
This is your audition right now, and you're winning. You're doing it.
Hey, I just did it. I think Mr. Bumble is a really important role.
I was going to ask if I could have a cameo, but clearly not.
Well, it's a one-woman show.
I know.
But maybe.
Bit selfish.
I know. What's your dream role?
Honestly, I'm really bad at answering that question because I've always found the most interesting parts that I've done are ones where other people see something in you. Although there was this one time when I was working on a film, and this theatre director, Michael Grandage, called me up, and he said, he's an amazing theatre director, and he said, I'm going to say two words to you, Richard II. You have to say yes or no. He goes, Richard II. And I was too embarrassed as an English actor that I'd never read Richard II. But across my life, various people had said, you know what, you'd be really interesting as Richard II. So I said yes. And I then went and read it, and Richard II is completely pathetic. It's a total wimp. Completely inept, incompetent. I was like, what? I was mildly offended the whole thing. And then I went and did a play committed to a play without ever having read it, which was not.
Well, this is ingrained into any actor, right? Do you ride horseback? Are you an
Yes.
archer?
Yes.
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 Yes. Of course, I can do all of that. I can speak Russian.
Yeah.
That's the history of every actor. You've done that before, Gayle, at some point?
I'm sure I have. Okay. It's like, can you use a chainsaw? Yes.
Yeah. Who wouldn't? Obviously, look at me.
No, I mean, you and I are too similar. I feel like people have done that. We'd be like, you've read Doll's House? Yes. I would love to play Alma.
I spent my life pretending I've seen movies that I haven't.
I know, I've decided to start telling the truth about that, though.
No, but it's so embarrassing. I love watching trailers, but I'm quite bad at watching movies.
What's one movie you're embarrassed to admit you've never seen?
There are
Let's flush it out. Let's just get it out.
Hundreds.
Like some of the, like I feel like there's like some of the Kubricks that you're like, yeah.
Oh, Barry Lyndon, seen it 1,000
Yeah,
times,
Barry Lyndon.
obviously.
Yeah.
Watched it a lot.
No, there's too many. It's just,
It's okay.
I'm trying to work out whether I'm going to tell this story.
Gayle, help me out here. Come on.
Don't you?
I once had a meeting with Martin Scorsese,
Here we go.
and he started talking about Japanese cinema from the 1930s.
Yep.
And I lied and pretended I'd seen some of the films, and then I had to try and upkeep this conversation without having. But I was so embarrassed that I hadn't, and the words just sort of vomited out of my mouth before I'd had a time to realize that I was lying, and now I'm going puce, and that was pretty embarrassing. Yeah. He doesn't know that. Well, yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Sorry,
Just to say I didn't get the part. So.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You're among friends. We've all done it. You're Tony nominated. You're an Oscar winner. You're okay.
Yeah.
Have we all done it though? What do you lie about having watched?
I would, in
all
that
of our
case-
movies.
Yeah, I've never seen one of yours. The happy, sad, confused, profoundly random questions. We're going to end with this. Some theater-themed ones. Mamma Mia 1 or Mamma Mia 2? What do you prefer? Oh, Gayle, this is provocative. You okay?
I
Am
have
I
seen
okay?
both of those movies.
Oh, good. Okay. That's a start.
Yeah, right?
And I have an opinion.
As do I. I'm going to say Mamma Mia 1.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I would say Mamma Mia 1 too.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8.
I will say Mamma Mia 1 as well. But I think Lily
Classic.
James really gave like this, having done, when I did Les Miserables, I remember we were trying to, it was sort of quite intense and emotional and everything was quite realistic. But there are occasional moments in film musicals where you just have to grab a lamppost and like
Go for it.
swing yourself around it and sing really like, go lean fully into the musical theatre-ness. And I feel like Lily James did that in an amazing way that is very difficult to do and she made look effortless.
Yeah.
This occurs to me, like, I feel like I've heard that you've karaoke'd in your time, right? So you've done that. Like, so like, if you're karaokeing and you see Les Mis pop up, would you ever perform a Les Mis song? Is that cheating?
Of course that's cheating.
Yeah.
But also, you know, you'd butcher it. You'd butcher, although I do love Les Mis. As in the musical, not the...
Right. Are you a karaokeer? Is that in your...
No, I've only ever done it once, and it was only because like one of my ex-boyfriends like begged me, and I was like, okay. And I was in like Boston at a Chinese restaurant. Do you know what I mean? I'm not kidding. It was insane. And
What did you sing?
well, this is what's crazy too. It's like I didn't sing a normal karaoke song. Like I sang because I'm me. I was sang like, has anyone ever seen that movie Calamity Jane? With Doris Day, and she has this song called Secret Love, and it's like one of my favorite songs. It's really beautiful, and she has this soaring, thing, and he filmed. He's a film director, and he filmed it, and he has it on film somewhere. But we've broken up, so I have no access to it.
So to go back to the previous question, Eddie, go along with me. Let's both say we've seen Calamity Jane.
We've seen Calamity Jane.
Calamity Jane's great.
Epic.
You love it, right?
Love Doris.
What's your favorite part? The part when it.
The end.
The
soaring bit.
The soaring part in the song, yeah.
Yeah, all the songs are great.
What's your favorite costume?
The one with the hat.
Yeah.
That is a good one. That is a good one.
What do you guys collect, if anything? Do you collect anything?
Anxiety. We do, though.
We do, actually.
We do.
It's a bit of a disaster, Gayle and I working together because we are so
Codependent a little
neurotic
bit.
together.
Yeah.
We like feed each other's, but we love each other deeply.
We do.
Like we literally arrive at the theatre. How's the voice? How is it?
A lot of this.
No, the voices.
Yeah. I used to collect Sylvanian families, which I think in this country you call calico critters. Is that a thing?
I've heard Sylvanian families. I actually haven't heard of calico critters.
I think that's what they could. That's
Okay.
maybe what they're called. Is that?
I heard some murmurs. There's some
There
validation.
you go.
Okay.
I heard some enthusiasm. So I used to collect those.
I
I don't
have no
an
follow up
answer
to
that,
that.
and I'm trying to. But I was thinking about lying and creating something.
So much lying.
What is this lying compulsion? Sorry.
I love it.
Last actor either of you were mistaken for? Do you ever get mistaken for anybody? Has that happened?
Never. I wish. I do.
Who do you want to be mistaken for? What's manifested?
I don't know, like, who's so gorgeous? You know what I mean? Pamela. Are you Pamela Anderson?
It's a very topical reference. Wow.
I did see her in person up and like, wow.
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
An icon.
Beautiful woman.
Yeah.
Just a wonderful light.
Yeah. Well, Eddie was always a big Baywatch fan back in the day, I
Massive.
remember.
Yeah, you've seen Baywatch too.
I watched all of it. Did you actually know that, Josh?
What? Did you actually have watched a lot of
Oh,
Baywatch?
I thought we were talking earlier about how sort of forensically he researches.
No, not that far. No.
No, I did love Baywatch, yeah.
No actor you've been mistaken for recently. You're Eddie Redmayne. There's only one.
No, I had a thing when I was younger and I was doing theatre in London. I was doing a play at the same time. I did a play called The Goat at the same time that Ben Whishaw was doing Hamlet. And I went to the theatre one day to see another play, and this woman came up to me and she said, I just have to say, I saw you on stage and I just thought it was magnificent. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. She kept talking and I was blushing but thrilled. She was so hyperbolic. And then she was like, it was just a Hamlet unlike anything else. And at this point, she'd gone so far into it that I didn't know whether to tell her. So I took Ben's praise and ran away.
Inveterate liar we're learning tonight. But yeah.
That weirdly did happen to me with someone else who's played Sally Bowles. This is so random, it just made me think about it.
Really?
But Maddie Brewer.
Oh, really?
Someone said, it was a woman, I was renting her home in LA, and we were texting about something, and she was just like, and you were so great in Hustlers. And I said, that wasn't me, but I'll take it. Because she's so beautiful.
Let's end on this. Worst note you've ever received from a director. What's the one that sticks out in your brain?
How much time do you have?
You don't have to name names, though you could.
I mean, it was the worst note and in some ways the best note, but also the most scary. And it happened on Cabaret when we were rehearsing it in London. And it was the first time, and we were in the rehearsal room, and it was the first time an audience was coming in, albeit a friendly audience, friends of the production, and I was so nervous because I'd been prepping in a vacuum, really. And anyway, particularly Vilcom in the beginning of that number is so exposed, and I had all this sort of stuff that I was doing, and Rebecca Frecknell, our glorious director, came up and she's like, Eddie, it's not working. Just entertain us. And I was sick in my mouth, but it was of course right because it then did force me to humiliate myself.
I was just gonna say, like, I do feel like I think about a note that I've gotten and I'm like, that was terrible. And then I'm like, well, it was actually true. Good. I don't know, or just, it's more about, I've met, sometimes in television, I've gotten some funny ones. It's like, hey, you look, I did a SVU episode. It was my first TV job, and I was the perp. I was like, I'd done something horrendous that I'm not even gonna say out loud to you. It was terrible. The episode is called Theatre Tricks, if you want to look it up. Anyway, so the director was like, I was walking in with a smoothie to console my friend, and I'm supposed to be, you know, like,
Wait, sorry, the character
I'm the perp.
was.
Yeah, the character was, not Gayle. And so I come in with a smoothie, and the director's like, yeah, Gayle, can we check in? You look really mad and guilty. And I was like, oh, that was like my nice face. I was like, my face at rest. Yeah. And I had like a resting...
Guilty resting face.
Terrible face.
Yeah.
And I was like, not much I can do about that. So, there you go.
It's worked out in the end. You guys are Tony nominees, well deserved. Congratulations. It's hard to do a show like this justice with clips and talking about it, but hopefully you've got a sense. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, I highly encourage you to do so. You can get there early, enjoy the entire environment that they create at the Kit Kat Club. It's remarkable. Congratulations again to you guys. Gayle Rankin, Eddie Redmayne, give it up for Cabaret.
And so ends another edition of Happy, Sad, Confused. Remember to review, rate, and subscribe to this show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm a big podcast person. I'm Daisy Ridley, and I definitely wasn't pressured to do this by Josh.